Don't be a jack of all trades and master of none. That's too old. Don't just even be a master of one thing and be done with it. I think what you need to be is be a jack of all trades and a master of some, not just one. I think that's the way to go about in 2021.
How should someone learn UI UX design? How can you find opportunities in this field? What separates an exceptional designer from the majority? That is what we'll be talking about in this complete video. With me, I'll be joined with Saptarishi Prakash. He has a YouTube channel on design, which is watched by thousands of people every single day. In this video, he shares his entire journey in the world of design and how can you get started in this field as well. So make sure that you watch till the very end, hit the like button, and let's get into this video. Hey Sapta, thank you so much for joining me here for this video. First of all, how are you doing there and how's your day been for you?
Hey Ishan, thanks a lot for inviting me for this. I'm really honored to be a part of your show and my day had been good. For a change, I had got to office today. I worked out of office amidst all this work from home and I just came back a while ago and it was nice catching up with the team. Yeah. How was your day?
My day was great as well. Let's talk about UI design, right? And more particularly, what is the day in the life of you look like when you're working at Swiggy as a UI UX designer?
Well, it largely differs, I would say. At times there are good days, at times there are bad days, and then at times there are ugly days as well. But maybe let me try and tell you how my days usually are spent. Right. So I'm at a managerial role right now. So I'm not only an individual contributor. And well, of course, being a manager doesn't mean that I do not have individual contribution. I also do a lot of hands-on work. That's the culture out here at Swiggy, that every manager also does hands-on work. So my typical day has a lot of meetings. My typical day has a lot of convincing that I need to do to the stakeholders, explaining them why we have taken a certain decision, understanding their point of view, and then coming up to some sort of a middle ground which works for everyone, most importantly for the users. And then my day also involves a lot of interacting with my team members, helping them out with what they are working, their projects, clarifying their doubts or reviewing their work, and essentially mentoring them whenever they need. And the third part of my work is essentially hands-on work, the work which is related to any kind of designer. That is when I operate the tool and when I design something, be it Figma, After Effects, or whichever tool I'm using or whatever kind of work that I'm doing. So hands-on is the third bit of my work. But if you see the split up of all these things these days, I get relatively lesser time to do hands-on work because my day is filled with the other kind of things that I have said. There are lots of meetings, especially in this remote scenario. Working out of office was relatively better because a lot of discussions could happen in person, impromptu. But now even the smallest thing is nothing but a 30-minute meeting on the calendar. So a lot of time goes on meetings, I would say.
Right. You've been making a lot of content about UI UX design, doing tutorials and all. What do you think would be the great way for people to get started in UI UX design field and learn UI UX effectively? Like there is a normal way to just test things, make mistakes, then learn again and again. But what's the effective way to learn UI UX design?
All right, effective way. Yeah, good to know that, you know about the content that I create. I wish I was a little more regular, but then, my work demands me to spend lesser time on it. Anyways, effective way, I would say, I like to believe that it's largely about common sense. Every individual in this world is a designer in some or the other way, right? Maybe you don't design digital interfaces or you don't design furniture or apparel or something else, but then if nothing, you design your own lives, the things around you, the way you arrange your desk so that, it works for you. You keep a certain thing to your left because you use it more often, certain things to your right because, you also use it as often, or you keep your camera in the front or a monitor in the front. It's all because you have observed your lifestyle, the kind of work that you do, the kind of stuff that you use on a daily basis. Based on that, you arrange. You look at everything. Your desk is just an example. You look at the kitchen where your family cooks, your living room where they sit and relax. Everything is set up in a way which works, right? That's essentially designing. Now, what makes the work of a professional designer slightly more challenging? Because as a professional designer, you're not really designing for your own self. You're designing for millions and millions of people who you don't even know. You can at best try and guess as to what they would want, what they would like and all. So that makes it challenging. Now, coming back to your question, what's the effective way of what's the best or a good way of learning design? I would say get the fundamentals right. because a lot of people fail in that, right? It's not just about finding some solution that works. It's about investigating and finding what is the root cause of a particular problem, right? Anyone can find a solution which just does maybe 50 to 60% of the work, and it might feel like it's good design, but it may not be the effective solution to the actual problem that you're trying to solve, the core of the problem. It's similar to if you have a wound in your hand and you just put a band-aid and just stick it up. That's not necessarily the treatment. You need to find out, what exactly has happened. Why did the wound happen? Was it a cut? Was it an infection? And everything might need a different treatment, might need some antibiotic, might need some injections and so on. That's the core of the problem that I'm talking about. So yeah, getting the fundamentals right and getting into the core of the problem is, I think, one of the most important skills. And the funny thing is, it doesn't even need any book or course or something. It's just about common sense.
Do you think that applications like, Canva and Adobe Spark and things that are a lot more drag and drop have made it a lot easier for people to get into design? And if so, does that limit the requirement of a designer in any team or any field? What do you think about that?
Well, whenever there is some technological change in the industry, it does affect a certain section, maybe. It always happens, whether it's a big change or a small change. That's debatable, that's questionable, but there's always some sort of change. Now, I get this question asked many times, with all these tools like Canva, Spark, and everything coming in, what's the role of a designer? Now, the thing out there is all these tools are based on some sort of templates, some pre-created templates which are present out there so that someone who's not a designer can go and use them, right? And just somehow get their work done. Again, if you remember what I had answered just a while back, that's maybe around 50 to 60% of doing it, but not the 80 to 90 or perhaps 100% where you would want to go. So in short, what I feel is Canva and tools and similar to Canva is making design accessible to a larger number of people who would have otherwise never designed or never ever thought about doing it. But now that's being possible because it's so easy. Whereas there's also another kind of people who do not design themselves, but then they are doing it, they want to get something done professionally. They are not the people who will rely on Canva. They'll probably still go for a professional designer who would get it done to that 80 to 90% level that I was talking about, right? So what I feel is it is just unlocking the possibility, right? If I were to again give you an analogy, Jio in India has made internet accessible to large number of people, people who would have never thought of using internet before, right? You go to a village and you would see people out there browsing YouTube and, browsing TikTok and so many other things, all because Jio has made it possible. But did it change the internet usage behavior of people who had been always using internet? People like you and I who are probably on a high-speed broadband or some other kind of internet? Not really. Maybe, we may still use a Jio connection, but it hasn't changed our internet usage pattern or anything. So that's what I feel these tools are like. So tools like Canva and Spark is making design accessible to many larger group of people who would have never ever thought, but it doesn't quite change what that, the top 5 or 10% of the people were designing. So that's my thought.
Right. What do you think separates normal designers from the exceptional ones? I used to listen to a lot of Steve Jobs, and he says that to being able to come to explain or express something in a simple sense is what makes someone a better designer at designing things, right? Not just graphics, but just products in general. What do you think about this?
Oh, yes. I will have to agree with Mr. Jobs. Of course. So design solves a problem, and there are lots of things involved in it, right? A good design is something where there is no ambiguity at all. If something is designed in a certain way, it is absolutely clear that this is how it needs to be used and this is what it is supposed to be done. Take this mic, for instance. In here there are 3 knobs which I can rotate, which changes the intensity of the input my mic is taking or the volume and stuff like that, right? It doesn't need an explanation because it is so damn obvious with all these rigs and things out there. I know that I need to rotate it in this direction, that direction to increase or decrease the volume and so on. This is good design because it is in sync with the things that I already know. I know that something like this is always rotated, right? So Yeah, a good design is something which is so obvious, which is not ambiguous at all, and anyone can understand, irrespective of what their background is, what their understanding is, and all. So that's good design, in my opinion, and it might need specialists to do that kind of work, understanding users, solving problems, and so on. But if you ask me, here's where I'm going to make a slightly controversial statement. That's good design, what I told you. I feel great designers, on the other hand, are generalists. That's because when we talk about real problems, real world problems, it doesn't just need one thing to solve that problem. It needs many things, right? You need to know a lot of things. You need to have an idea about a lot of things so that, you can make use of all of them, compound them in your head, and then come up with effective solution. The end goal is not to make one thing really good. The end goal is to solve the overall larger problem in the best possible way, right? Again, if I were to give you an analogy, think of a baker, right? A person who is great at baking maybe cakes and pastries, right? You won't really call that person a great chef. That person is at best a great patissier or a gourmet baker or whatever the names are. I'm not sure. But for someone to be a great chef, they need to know not just baking, but many other forms of cooking, because only then they can innovate and create stuff, signature stuff, which is very unique to them, which everyone would perhaps like, right? So that's about being a chef versus, being just one thing. So that's my personal opinion. I feel in order to do great design, one needs to be a generalist. I know it's slightly controversial. That's why I always tell everyone that don't be a jack of all trades and master of none. That's too old. Don't just even be a master of one thing and be done with it. I think what you need to be is be a jack of all trades and a master of some, not just one. I think that's the way to go about in 2021.
So Sapta, how can people start getting clients in this field of UI UX design according to you? And what according to you is better for people? Should they be going out for, is there more scope in freelance, or is there more scope in getting full-time jobs according to you as a UI UX designer?
Right. So, let me try and answer the second part of your question first. I would be biased when I say this because, I have primarily been a designer working for corporates, companies. Well, while I have done my fair share of freelance as well. Well, if I look at it, I think both of the sides has got tremendous potential to grow, tremendous potential to learn, tremendous potential to earn a lot of money, depending on what kind of individual you are and how you're playing it, right? Working in a corporate would teach you a lot more details about, a particular thing. If you're working for a product company, you will know in and out about the product if you work for a couple of years in that, 2 to 3 years, if I say. You will get to know the users, you would design them, you would design for them, and then you would ship it to them. And you'll also get their feedback. So it's a complete cycle, I would say. You design, you send it to your users, and you also get feedback on how you had designed. And then you push some more changes, making the existing design better. And this cycle kind of keeps happening a couple of times before you are confident that, okay, what is out there in the market is good. It works for them, right? So it's an iterative process. You might have heard that design is an iterative process. So in a company, when you work for a company, since you spend longer time, you get to live the entire iteration many times, right? That's good for the learning of a designer. That's one advantage that I see, and I kind of value that. That's why I personally chosen this way. Whereas in freelance, that doesn't necessarily happen all the time, because the amount of time that you spent with a particular client could be smaller. It could be just on a project basis of engagement that, you finish this, you design this. After that, okay, you get paid and done, you're done, right? So you never know how that design, you not always know how that design performed for the users, for that client, not, right? So that's one disadvantage that I see with freelance. Advantages, I think you already know of them because they are pretty much seen as a freelancer. You have the liberty to work whenever you want. You can charge whatever you want. You can be at any part of the world and, have clients from any other part of the world, all of them. But then it also needs you to have some extra skills as well. You're essentially an entrepreneur when you are being a freelancer, because you are running everything. You're not just designing, you are doing your own project management, you are planning, you are coding, you're doing finance, HR, and every sort of work. So that can be overwhelming for a lot of people, especially when you scale it up to a certain level that, you wish to be a freelancer all your life. I'm not talking about, you design a logo for $5. That doesn't involve all these things, right? So I'm talking when someone takes a freelance at a very serious level, at a higher level, which is, your bread and butter. That might need someone to have a lot more skills than design alone. And honestly, not everyone is good at it or even prepared for it. So people who are watching this video, they should be mindful that are they ready to do all these things, because that will determine whether they will be a good freelancer or not. Now, coming back to the first part of your question, how does someone get their first client, right? The first client could be anything. I remember my first client was something that I got when I was in my college. A senior of mine had given me that opportunity from some client he was working with, or at some capacity, I don't know. It was to design the label of a shampoo bottle. Right? It was a locally made shampoo in Chennai, and that company wanted labels. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a very big company. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to a college student to get their logo and label designed, right? But they did. But whatever, I got 600 rupees for that, and I was really happy. I had a lot of coffee and CCD with that money. So your first thing can come from anywhere. And whenever it comes, whenever you get an opportunity, I would say just go grab it. Don't wait for, hey, this is just a shampoo label, I won't do it. Or this is just 600 rupees, I won't do it. That shouldn't be the case. Okay, let's do one or two stupid projects like that. Let's do one or two very low paying projects, because that will teach you a lot of things. That will teach you how you communicate with your client or how you sell something, right? That's an incredible knowledge in itself. That's what I would say. And how to get it? There are many ways. There are lots of websites you can sign up for, as freelancer.com, fiverr.com, where you just go create an account and put up some of your work, and then whenever there is any client putting out any work, you can go bid, and then if your client picks up, you essentially get that job. It can be as simple as that, or it can be the other way around as well. Build a kick-ass portfolio. It can be, a detailed UX portfolio that you write on Medium or in your personal website, or it can be something visually good-looking stuff that you put on Instagram, Dribble, and all these places. And people who hire freelancers, they actually dwell on these platforms. They go to Behance, they go to Dribble and say, okay, who are the designers around me who I can hire for freelancing, right? And if they like your work out there, they'll drop you a message and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so company, I have this work. Would you be interested in picking this up? I remember after making my Dribble portfolio, which I made years back in 2015 though, within the first month or so, I started getting freelance requests from various people around the world, right? It's that easy, honestly. It's that easy. You just have to put out your work and make the world know that you exist and you can do something well. I think that should be enough to get you your first, client, if I put it that way.
I have a story. My sister, back in, I think 2019, she started learning about logo design. She started using Photoshop. And back then she was 12 years old. And she got her first client on Fiverr, right? I made a video talking with her. That video is at 1 million views, the most watched video on my channel. I recorded so many videos in the last 2 years. And the one that gets the most views is actually her talking about her own journey of getting her first client at the age of 12.
Wow, and then that's incredible. See, at the age of 12, I don't even remember. What was I doing in 12? Great stuff, yeah.
What other resources or people that you look up to get inspired or to just look at what they are doing right now?
Well, people that I look up to a lot of people, honestly, for different things, right? And like I said, a great designer is a generalist, and I'm trying to be a generalist, right? And over time, maybe, I will develop some sort of specialization in some of those fields that, I know as of today, but I look up to different people for different things, right? And I feel all these things actually built or make a good designer in me, right? Or at least that's what the attempt has been, right? That includes not just, hardcore designing. It could be about writing wonderful emails. It could be building great presentations which drive the point, or it could be articulating or speaking. And for, getting better at these, I don't need to get inspired by designers who are doing this. I can get inspired by people who are really good at it, right? For example, I really look up to Mr. Shashi Tharoor for his oratory skills, right? He's great at speaking, right? I really look up to Shah Rukh Khan. I mean, I don't mean Shah Rukh Khan's acting in movies. I mean, that's good as well. But you should see how he speaks in public on the stage, right? You should watch his TED Talk if you haven't.
All right, Sapta, thank you so much for joining me here. I have one last question for you, and that is, what do you think about the Metaverse? What role can designers play in the Metaverse or whatever it is going to be like, according to you?
Oh, it's like... I think it's a really exciting time to be in this world, where lots of things are happening, right? The world is going towards a lot of virtual assets. Like if a while back offline we were discussing, how people are spending real money to buy virtual assets in their metaverse, to decorate it, to build their own farmland or maybe casino or whatever. So I think that's really exciting. And as designer, I think there's a lot of opportunity in designing those assets which can be sold. And people who spend that kind of time and money on the internet on these virtual assets would be ready to pay a lot for all of these, right? That also reminds me of NFTs that are getting really popular these days. I myself haven't tried my hands at it yet, but I wish, if I were to become a millionaire soon, maybe I should go the NFT way. But I know that it needs a lot of effort. But I think that's has a tremendous potential to try your hands at it, right? Now, there are lots of questions around how long would it stay? Like, is it sustainable or is it just a bubble because it's new, people are thinking about it? It could be. I don't know about it. It could be short-lived. It could be a bubble which is going to burst. But what I feel is right now it's rising and it's going to be like that at least for the next couple of years. And till then, as designers or creators, I think we should ride the wave. Reap whatever we can, maximum out of it. And after that, if it dies, okay, it dies. It was a good time that you had. But we should certainly ride the wave, right? Like I said, it's a very exciting time to be in this world.
Definitely, Satya. Thank you so much for joining me here.
Thank you, Shan. It was incredible honor to be a part of this conversation with you. I wish you all success in your life and hope to see this live very soon.
That was the video. I hope you got to learn something from this. You can connect with Sapta. I have all his social handles in the description, so do check that out. If there's one thing that you learned from this video, do let me know in the comment section and also write I was till the very end. If you found this video helpful, please share this video with a friend of yours. You can find me on Instagram as well as Twitter. If you want to learn about free courses that you can take to become a graphic designer, take a look at this video right here. That's all I have for you. I'll see you in the next one.